Hey friends, Ash here with Gents. We're about at the halfway point of 2020. So half the year has passed. We've got roughly 6 months ahead of us. I wanted to take a look at the releases that have come out this year and pick out my favorite and least favorite fragrances that have been released this year. So I'm gonna have my 3 least favorite and my 3 most favorite in this video. Also, this video is concentrating on designer fragrances, not niche fragrances. So just wanted to make that clear right here at the beginning. One more thing I need to make clear, should be obvious, but I need to make sure that everybody understands. I haven't smelled every single fragrance that's come out this year. Yeah, there are a bunch that have come out that I have no clue whether they're good or bad or whatever. For example, the new Nuidisi Polaris, I haven't smelled that. Hopefully it's good, but haven't smelled it, so obviously it's not going to be in this video. So with that caveat out of the way, that there could be fragrances worse than these or better than these that I haven't smelled yet, let's jump into this. I think I'm going to start off with my 3 least favorite, so in my opinion, the 3 worst designer fragrances that have come out this year so far. And really, if I'm judging the year so far on a whole, well, it's obviously a terrible year overall, just a complete cluster, absolute mess of a year. But the fragrances, yeah, they're not really good either for the most part. Most fragrances that have been released have been really forgettable. Not a lot of them have been really attention grabbing or, you know, trend setting or just mind blowing. It's been a whole bunch of meh. I would say just on the whole, like the average fragrance that's come out this year is just not that impressive. All right, let's jump into these. Really no particular order with these worst fragrances. Just I don't like any of them. The first one is the first one that I have lined up in front of me, so I guess it's the first one we'll talk about. Dolce & Gabbana Love is Love Pour Homme, and this is the newest summer flanker in the light blue line. The 2 light blue summer flankers that came out before this one were Sun and Italian Zest. Those were more citrus forward, which is what you'd usually think of with a summer flanker, you know, a whole bunch of citrus in the opening. This one switched things up a bit, and that's usually a good thing. I like it when fragrance companies will try to switch it up a little bit, do something different, do something interesting. This one includes a note of gelato, so that was kind of the big draw with this fragrance. People were like, oh, but that'll smell nice, really sweet, probably a little bit creamy. There's also apple in here. There is a little bit of citrus, I believe bergamot. There's amberwood and vanilla as well, and you can kind of tell that they switched things up just by the color of the fragrance, because Sun that came before this was orange, makes sense, and then Italian Zest was yellow. This one though, I just don't like, obviously, because it's in this list, but comes across a little bit feminine for my taste, just not really a fragrance that worked off my skin. I did a review on it and went into more detail on that review, so you can check that out if you want. I had high hopes for the fragrance, but sadly just didn't work for me. As far as light blue flankers go, I would rather wear Eau Intense. That one I think is the best light blue flanker that's come out over the last few years or so. After that, probably Sun would be my next choice, and then this one is down there with Italian Zest toward the bottom. So points because they tried something different, but I just don't like it. It doesn't work for me, and my wife, not a fan either. So if I don't like it and the wife doesn't like it either, it's not for me. Next up, a fragrance from the house of Azzaro. This one I've talked about a little bit here recently. I just think it's really generic. Basically the most basic gem fragrance slash shower gel fragrance that you could imagine. Azzaro Sport. And you can really tell that they barely tried with this one, because this is one of the cheapest caps that I've ever seen. It's just a little piece of plastic that spins freely, usually makes noises like that. It's just complete crap. And then this bottle is shared with Azzaro Fun, Azzaro Shine, and Azzaro C. It's the same type of bottle, kind of an oval 100 ml size bottle. So they put next to no effort into this fragrance. It actually was already out at discounters before you could even find information on what the notes for this were. That's how cheap this is. It was already being sold at FragranceNet and FragranceX before the fragrance was even really announced. It wasn't on Fragrantica, it wasn't on Parfumo, it wasn't on Base Notes. You couldn't even find it on Azzaro's website, and yet you could buy it at discounters. So the official notes for this are apparently clary sage, lavender, tonka, and sandalwood, which doesn't necessarily sound like it would be a sport fragrance, but when you spray it on, it absolutely does. Just kind of a cheap shower gel gem fragrance, that's all it is. It's not that it smells offensive, and it's not that it's too in your face or aggressive or anything like that. It's just completely forgettable, very boring, and it doesn't really smell like it's all that high quality, which makes sense because, again, Azzaro barely even cares that they made this, and if Azzaro doesn't care that they made it, why should you care that they made it? And now the last fragrance in the worst of the year is another Azzaro fragrance, Wanted Tonic. Yeah, 2 Azzaros. This serves pretty much the exact same purpose that this serves. So Azzaro released 2 fragrances that do pretty much the exact same thing. They don't smell the same, but you would use these in all the same situations. This one obviously is the higher profile release of the 2 because this is a complete throwaway that they don't care about at all, and this is a summer release in an established line, which is of course Wanted. This has lime, ginger, and green cardamom, so it does have that effervescent sort of opening that a lot of people like, citrus plus ginger. It's kind of a tried, tested, and true combination for summertime fragrances. But this one just smells, again, boring. It's uninspired. It's just a casual warm weather fragrance that nobody is ever going to really remember. That's how it comes across to me anyway. When I smell it, I'm just like, okay, whatever, on to the next. And it seems like a lot of the fragrances coming out this year, especially the summertime fragrances, are taking a similar approach to this one, which is just shower gel, fresh, gym time kind of fragrance. If you could pick this up for 20, 25 bucks, something like that, maybe even 30, it could be okay for warm weather, casual kind of situations, or to the gym, as I mentioned a couple of times. But I bought this for, I think, 90 bucks, and at $90, oh God, is it a ripoff. Third that price, you might be okay, you can get some wear out of it, but for me, personally, and of course this is a personal list, this is all just my opinion, my feelings with these purchases, that one is one of my least favorite of the year, easily. Now on to the good ones. These are 3 fragrances I like, 3 fragrances I'm gonna wear a lot, and 3 fragrances I don't regret purchasing at all. And interestingly enough, they are 3 flankers. So nothing super new here, and each one of these fragrances does have a solid amount of the DNA of the original in them. I wouldn't say that any of these fragrances necessarily are taking a huge risk, but they all smell really nice, and I enjoy them all. First up, Acqua di Gio Profondo from Giorgio Armani. Yeah, I've talked a lot on this channel about Acqua di Gio, the original. It's one of the fragrances that got me heavily into fragrances in general, and Profondo, if you really simplify it, is kind of like taking that Acqua di Gio DNA, the original DNA, and modernizing it, adding some green facets in here like rosemary and cypress, adding mineral notes, amped up aquatic notes, and again just taking it in a more modern direction, making Acqua di Gio more wearable for more people once more. Now all that said, if you don't like the original Acqua di Gio, you very well may not like this one, because it's definitely Acqua di Gio. I quite like it though. I like the green notes, I like the cypress, I like the rosemary, I like the little switches in here, the little changes, the little nuances put into this fragrance, and for me, so far, one of the best designer releases of the year. The next 2 are more fall and wintertime fragrances, so just one of the fragrances that is one of my favorite of the year so far is a summertime scent. The next one I want to talk about is this one, Pasha de Cartier Parfum. Yeah, this one is super good. It's got a boozy note in here, balsam fir, sandalwood, so you're going to have some woodiness in the scent, as well as labdanum and benzoin. Going to give you a little bit of a resinous feel and some sweetness as the scent dries down. Interestingly enough, if you smell this one, especially off a tester strip, you're going to get some of that original Pasha de Cartier DNA in here, which is actually a fragrance that's going to give you more of an old school, almost barbershop-y, gentlemanly sort of vibe. So you do pick up a little bit of that, especially off a tester strip. This one though, very rich, not super dense. There's good projection here, good performance, especially with longevity, but not really something that I would consider cloying, unless maybe you went crazy heavy with the trigger. And while it does have sweetness, it concentrates more on the resinous side of things, so you're not gonna get that really youthful, bubblegummy type thing going on with this fragrance at all. Fragrance that you can easily wear to the office, wear formally, wear on a night out, especially again in fall or winter cooler weather. This one, just a killer, very high quality, very nice fragrance from a house that does get overlooked a little bit sometimes. And this one of my favorites, just smells great. Can't wait for fall to roll around so I can bust this out more. And the last fragrance I want to talk about as one that I like is from the house of Guerlain. And I know some of you out there are going to say, well, it's a niche house, all their fragrances are niche, but I made the rules for this video, and for this video, this one is considered designer because of the line that it's in. So you're going to have to, you know, look past that. It's this one, L'Homme Ideal Extreme. This one does have the almond note, which is super prominent in this line. It's in every fragrance across the L'Homme Ideal line, as well as heliotrope. So you've got the heliotrope and almond kind of playing together and off of each other in this fragrance. There's also tobacco and leather, which are notes that generally are loved across men's perfumery, as well as some spice from cinnamon and plum, which is going to give you a dark, fruity sweetness to the scent. Now, this one I've had for the least amount of time, obviously, because I just did a first impression on this fragrance, but it's one that I really want to wear this upcoming fall, and it's one of the few fragrances this year that I've tried that's a 2020 release, where I smelled it and immediately thought, yeah, this is good. I have no regrets picking this up. A lot of times fragrances from this year, I've smelled them and been like, maybe it'll grow on me, or just it's trash right away. Thankfully this one, I loved it right from the bat, right from the get, right from the bat. In my first impression of this fragrance, I did mention that it smells a little bit like Code Absolute, but it's more like they took the Guerlain L'Homme Ideal DNA from the Eau de Toilette mainly, maybe a touch from the Eau de Parfum, but it's missing the cherry from the Eau de Parfum that's so prominent. And then they were maybe inspired a little bit by fragrances like Code Absolute and wove that into the L'Homme Ideal DNA. That's kind of how it comes across. That's a very simplified way of describing the fragrance, but it gives you an idea. This one is spicy, it's sweet, it's rich, it's a little bit creamy. The heliotrope comes out especially as it moves through the mid, and then in the dry down, more of that tobacco starts to come out, and there's a sweet leather. It's kind of underneath it all throughout the life of the fragrance. I pick it up pretty much right away. Some people who are really into old school Guerlain fragrances may not like the way or the direction that they're taking with the L'Homme Ideal line, because this is going for more of a designer feel, versatility, wearability, mass appeal, complement, stuff like that. But it is still fairly unique, you know, posted up against all the other designer scents out there. So I really like it. I think it's really nice. And once that's more readily available in the US at discounters, well, hopefully more readily available at discounters in the future, I suggest you check it out. It's really good. And that's gonna do it for me. 3 fragrances I don't really like, and 3 fragrances, I almost dropped this one, that I do. All right, guys, if you've smelled these fragrances, let me know what you think about them. As always, thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with another fragrance video. Stay safe out there.